know me, my name is Justin M. Bailey. I'm a writer, I like to play games, and today I want to talk about Castlevania. I want to talk about a time when vampires were still cool before a book called Twilight came along and ruined them forever. Congratulations, Stephanie Myers! You did the one thing the Belmonts never could. You killed Dracula for good this time! He's not coming back! Happy? I'm not. But let's not focus on the bad times today. No, we are not focusing on Vampire Diaries, Vampire Academy, or whatever teeny bopper crap they got out right now with pointy fangs. Let's focus on the good times. I'm talking Hammer horror flicks, Vampire Hunter D, and of course, the pinnacle of vampire coolness, at least from the 8-bit, 16-bit, and 32-bit era, Castlevania. A heavy metal movie monster extravaganza. A feast for the eyes and ears devoted to everything sinister, dark, and pointy-fanged. Castlevania! Though obviously inspired by the horror classics of yesteryear, Castlevania doesn't play much like a movie at all. There is little story to speak of whatsoever, save kill Dracula. But Castlevania don't need no story, because it's not a story at all. It's a rock and roll concert! A concert where you, the player, get to beat along with the band with just a D-pad and a couple of buttons. Your whip is the drumsticks, and those stupid Medusa heads and bats are the drums. So you whack them good and keep up the beat. Oh yes, Castlevania's a rock concert. One that would make the likes of Alice Cooper, Ozzy Osbourne, and Rob Zombie proud. Castlevania is one of those rare games that's not trying to spin you a yarn. It's trying to give you a show. One you will never forget. One that you can get nowhere else save on the Nintendo and PlayStation. Yet surprisingly, the majority of us have never even experienced it until Symphony of the Night came on the scene.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets!
Now, I know Castlevania has itself a pack of rabid fans that have been around since its Nintendo days. But how many of us gamers today can count ourselves among those few? I for one can't, and I wish I could, because my only experiences with the Belmonts was this jack-off. And occasionally dabbling with my cousin's infamously confusing copy of Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. Back then, I barely touched Vania at all. But then in 1997, the course changed forever when Symphony of the Night premiered, transforming many of us gamers into bona fide Castlevania fanatics. But after much time has passed, and now thanks to the internet, we know everything about anything on every single video game ever made. Does Symphony of the Night still stand up as the ultimate Castlevania experience? No! It's not! But Symphony of the Night is so big, this doesn't even matter. It'll always serve as the ultimate introduction to the Castlevania series. For example, if you were going to tell a friend to play one game, just one game in the Castlevania series, which one are you going to tell them? Well, if you want your friend pulling out their hair, giving you a well-deserved fuck you, and hating Castlevania forever, you're going to tell them to play Dracula's Curse, Super Castlevania 4, but if you actually want them to like Castlevania, no, love it, hands down every time, you're going to tell them to play Symphony of the Night. Symphony of the Night. Yes, it's kind of a Metroid ripoff. Yes, it's so easy that any idiot can sit down and beat it, but there is an infinite amount to respect about this game. Not only did Symphony of the Night throw everything into it but the kitchen sink, everything from secrets, level-ups, familiars, to an entire upside-down friggin' castle to explore, Symphony of the Night is fun to listen to, fun to look at, fun to find new stats, and kill bosses. And it dared to stay true to its 2D roots when every other game was going 3D. If there is one thing where Symphony of the Night deserves your respect, it's that. Back then, 2D side-scrolling was becoming a thing of the past, something to be considered passé and out of date with all those new next-generation 3D consoles coming out. And not only did Castlevania's Symphony of the Night stick to its 2D roots, it showcased to the entire industry that side-scrolling still had plenty to offer. Yes! Side-scrolling still had plenty of tricks up its sleeve. But, as already mentioned, Symphony of the Night is not the ultimate Castlevania experience, and if not this masterpiece, then what is? Most would say for the Super Nintendo Castlevania 4. James Rolfe for one, where if you've ever watched a video on gaming on the internet, you know exactly who he is, and James unanimously says Castlevania 4 is #1. That's a huge stamp of approval right there. Now, I'm not going to come here and tell you that I know better than him. I'm not going to tell you that I know beyond a vampire's shadow of a doubt what is, in fact, the ultimate Castlevania rock and roll concert. What I am going to tell you is, if Castlevania 4 is in fact the undisputed king of all Castlevania, there is one worthy contender that deserves your consideration, and that game is Castlevania Rondo of Blood. It's Castlevania Rondo of Blood. Yeah! Castlevania Rondo of Blood is a game so rare that even in the age of the internet, there's still the occasional Castlevania fan that has never even heard of it. Rondo of Blood came out in 1993 over in Japan, but we didn't get it in America until 2007 for the PSP, and then 2010 for the Wii Virtual Console. And no, I don't count Dracula X. From an American standpoint, Rondo of Blood is the Castlevania that time forgot. A lost treasure that successfully sets the stage for everything that was soon to follow in Symphony of the Night. It's the prequel to Symphony of the Night. But Rondo of Blood is not only the opening act to the biggest Castlevania performance of all time, it was the last honest-to-God platformer before Symphony of the Night forever changed the formula. Rondo of Blood is not a Metroidvania. It's pure side-scrolling, pure platforming, and perhaps most important of all, unlike all other entries in the series before, everyone actually has a chance of beating this one. It's simple. If you can beat Mega Man, you can beat Rondo of Blood. If there is one major drawback to all the previous Castlevanias in the series, including Super Number 4 with all its fancy new controls and R buttons, is that they're too difficult. If you don't have either A, an autistic savant, or B, a virtually non-existent social life and an infinite amount of time to bang your head against your controller, the old Castlevanias are 99.99% impossible to beat. And don't get me wrong, I love a good platforming challenge as much as the next guy. But the old Castlevanias are not more about challenge as they are about sadism and programming incompetence, rather than the good old folks at Konami trying to give the kids a good run for their money. If there is one reason why people don't appreciate old Castlevania, it's that. So yeah, maybe Symphony of the Night is too easy for the hardcore Castlevaniacs out there, but you have to ask, what's the point of such a fantastic game series if most of us can't get past level 2? Rondo of Blood successfully puts this difficulty problem to rest. It's not a pushover like Symphony of the Night. It's still, beating this game is not a given. It's earned. But what I love about it is, Rondo of Blood gives more players the chance to know what it feels like to walk up those famous stairs and kill Dracula for themselves before Stephanie Myers comes along and ruins it forever. That alone makes Rondo of Blood, in my eyes, a worthy contender for the #1 spot. Rondo of Blood does so much. It's the link between old Castlevania and new Castlevania. It has a platforming style like the games of old, and it comes equipped with a visual and musical CD quality that marks the next thing to come for Castlevania. It's the perfect mix of two entire eras of the franchise, and were that not enough, Rondo of Blood seems to pay homage to what very well may be the original inspirations for the Castlevania series in the first place: Hammer Horror and Vampire Hunter D. Hammer Horror's Castlevania inspiration is not in question. Trust me, just go ask Christopher B. or Trans Fisher. And though no one seems to know for certain whether or not Vampire Hunter D is in fact the big Castlevania daddy, yeah, I'm going to go on a limb here and say he probably is. Castlevania came out in Japan September 1986, the Vampire Hunter D movie came out in December 1985, and even if nobody working at Konami at the time liked to frequent the movie theaters on their days off, Vampire Hunter D the novel came out a whole 3 years before, back in 1983, drawn by none other than Yoshitaka Amano. You ever play Final Fantasy VI? Ever play Final Fantasy anything? Then you know who this artist is! Trust me, read the Vampire Hunter D novel, watch the Vampire Hunter D movie, go play some Castlevania, and then tell me what you think. But most importantly of all, just go play some Rondo of Blood. For me, Rondo of Blood is the ultimate Castlevania heavy metal experience. Since Symphony of the Night, I have always loved the entire Castlevania series to death, but for me, Rondo of Blood will forever be #1. I'm Justin M. Bailey, and I hate Stephanie Myers. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm Justin M. Bailey, and I love Castlevania.